Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys the basics of paneling a manga page. Manga pages usually have around 4 panels per page on average, but you can obviously use less or more depending on how experienced you are in the craft. And you're gonna want to decide which direction the reader is reading in, left to right or right to left. This is important because if you're reading from left to right, you'd want to start with a right page, and if you're reading from right to left, you want to start with a left page. So how do we tell the difference between a right page and a left page? You can tell if a page is a left page or a right page, usually if there's a blank margin on the opposite side. For example, in the first chapter of Blue Lock, since we read from right to left, the highlighted page is the right page, and we know it's the right page because of the blank margin in the left side. The same rule applies to the next page, which is the left page. Let's call this the margin rule. This is mainly because when printing, the manga will be bound at the seams in the middle, so anything in that margin area will not be seen. Not only that, but typically you want to draw until the end of the page in all the other 3 directions. This isn't a steadfast rule though, and I've noticed it varies based on the information, scene, or atmosphere of the panel, like how in Blue Lock and my manga Guren, panels are drawn to the edges of the page while abiding to the margin rule I explained earlier. I think it helps make the scenes pop out more. On the other hand, in Pseudo Harem, some panels aren't drawn to the edges of the page either because it's just dialogue, a cute moment captured in time, or a reaction shot. None of them need to pop out, so this is okay. Even better than if drawn to the edges, I would even say. Very rarely will you see a page with no panels touching the edge of the page, as seen here in From Now On We Begin Ethics. You could make an argument that maybe the first and last panel could have been drawn to the edges of the page, but I think the author wanted to convey the suffocating and uncomfortable emotions of the male character, and they chose to convey that by literally confining the scenes within defined borders. But this comes with experience, confidence, and feel, so it's okay if you don't understand it at the moment. For now, I recommend drawing into the edges of the page whilst adhering to the margin rule. Okay, but doesn't the margin rule only exist for printing purposes? When reading digitally, there is no left or right pages, so is it really necessary? I would say yes. Not only does it help tell whether a page is left or right, but it also helps enhance scenes that break from that constraint. When a reader is used to the empty space being there, and you hit them with a page spread or art that bypasses the margin rule, it makes that scene much more bombastic and memorable. Think character moments, surprises, or big action scenes. Now that we've got how the panels interact with the edges of the page, let's talk about how panels interact with each other. Typically, the space between 2 horizontally adjacent panels is thinner than the space between 2 vertically adjacent panels. An exception to this rule is usually reaction shots. Those panels are either within or on top of another panel, as seen in this page of Pseudo Harem, or immediately next to the preceding scene in which the reaction is towards, as seen in this page in The Dangers of My Heart. There are other exceptions, but they usually are creative or author intended, so just judge based on a case-by-case basis. For beginners, don't worry about this exception and just make sure to space out your panels appropriately like I mentioned before, but just keep this in mind for future reference. That's about all the basics you should know to start paneling your manga, but keep in mind these are the basics, the fundamentals. Once you become more experienced, you can start experimenting with other types of paneling techniques. Okay, lesson over. Now I'm actually going to show you how to panel a page from start to finish. So if you go to Google and type in like manga page template generator, I really like this one. You go to the first search result from Tapas Forum. Shout out to Jam on Toast 98. He created a website where you can basically just generate random manga panels, manga pages with a specified number of panels up to your desire. So if you want to do like a big panel and then boom, a page with minimal panels, this works. The only problem is sometimes I feel like sometimes I feel like the panels aren't done justice sometimes, because it is randomly generated after all. Like this is ugly. I don't think you would ever see a manga page like this. Usually the panel for the third box would at the very least extend all the way to the top of the page. But it is randomly generated. You can't be too mad. I mean, you should use this website as a means to gather ideas, not to actually, you know, copy the panels one for one, unless there is a really good. See this, get rid of this fourth panel and just make it one big panel. But yeah, just use this website to generate ideas, I guess you could say. Then if you've like preset, I mean a generated outcome, if you like a generated page, you could try to copy it and maybe edit it on your own to be more towards your liking. Like, this is way too messy, but you can edit it to make it a bit more appropriate. Here, I'll do it right now. So you see, we basically just took the template and made it our own. I mean, we just copy and pasted it and then did it properly on Clip Studio Paint. But I told you I don't really like this, because if you think about it, realistically, this is just a very stylistic approach to a page that is structured like this. I like, my basic advice is I like to give out, I like to tell is try to simplify things, and then once you've simplified it, then you can start stylizing it. So this is the simplified version of this. You can tell they're basically the same thing. Like this is read as if reading from right to left, so we're reading in this direction. This would be panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, panel 5, and that basically applies the same way here. But I don't like the way that, like I told you before, I don't like the way that the generator generated these panels. It's a little bit chaotic, which might work for an action scene, but even then, what in such a skinny panel, what are you gonna fit in here? It's better to just get rid of this panel entirely and then extend this. It's better to just do this and turn it into a 4 panel, combine 4 and 5. Combine 4 and 5 into one panel. Even then, I'm still not a big fan of it. But you could probably make something work with it. I'll make something work with it right now, honestly. Okay, so I'm basically done. So remember we started from this template we got from the website. Shout out Jason Malcolm. And remember we're reading from right to left, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then I told you you could just simplify it to make it easier for you to understand. So here's the simplification of it.
I also said that me personally, I didn't like how Forest panel was so skinny that not a lot of information can be shown there. So I thought it was redundant. So what I did was I just combined 4 and 5. So now we only have 4 panels to work with. And I turned those 4 panels into this. So we went from this to this. You can see that it's not too far apart from each other in terms of formatting.
So we were given some panels from the website, and then we turned that panels into a page, and then we turned that into a story. So we have Sasuke approaching Naruto. Naruto notices, Sasuke unsheaths his weapon, and Sasuke and Naruto begin to fight. This is what I think beginners should do to practice paneling until they're comfortable paneling on their own. Like how most experienced mangakas do it, and how I do it myself. Usually when you become more experienced, you begin to panel on your own and you don't use resources because you know what story you want to tell and you know how you want to tell it. So using randomly generated panels more or less hinder you rather than just making them on your own. But yes, this is the very basics of paneling for a beginner.